Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest of the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today's guest is Justine Froelker, and she's an author, a speaker, and a corporate trainer over at justinefroelker.com. Justine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you
All
for
right,
having me.
so this is a hot topic, discussing burnout or bottom line. Lot of individuals, lot of professions dealing with burnout and what that even looks like. And today we got a lot of things coming at us at one time, different maybe complexities that weren't in the workforce or just even in life in the past. So excited to get into this topic with you and how you're helping organizations as well and their employees. But just to get us kicked off, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So Justine, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's what we do. Justine, what mission matters to you?
Ooh, my mission is to create the space where people remember how worthy and loved they are, and then teach them how to go out into the world and live from that worth and love.
It's great. Love bringing mission-based individuals on here to share why they do what they do, how they're doing it, and really what we can all learn from that so we grow together. So great to have you on. I guess just to get us started here, I mean, where did all this begin for you? Corporate training, JustineFroelker.com, like becoming an author, like where did all this start for you?
My background I'm a therapist by trade. So I'm a licensed professional counselor. And I've been in some capacity of traditional mental health or professional development for 25 years. And I was that person. I was a psych major the whole time. And it was really because of what my life story. I actually, when I was 11 years old, I had 2 back surgeries, or I was misdiagnosed for a year and a half and then had 2 back surgeries. During that time of being misdiagnosed, I had to go see a sports psychologist at like 11 or 12. And I remember thinking, like, what you do is really interesting, and tucked that away. Ended up having to have 2 back surgeries in high school. I was in a full body cast
Oh,
both
wow.
times. And so obviously created, I had to learn resilience really from a very young age. And so, but that planted that seed. And so when I graduated high school and went to college, I was a psych major. And then I went to graduate school and got my degree in community counseling. And I have worked in traditional mental health for such a long time. And then 7 years ago, I left my thriving private practice to take the risk and try to reach more people through speaking and doing trainings, workshops, and keynotes and things like that. And so now I get to bring a lot of these, what I call just human essential skills to the workplace.
Yeah. Were you always an entrepreneur within this field? Because I know there's a lot of different ways to do that. And you mentioned private practice. So I'm just curious, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of executives that watch this program. Were you always an entrepreneur or entrepreneurial?
I love that question because especially in this psychology world, for me, I believe it's very important for people to do agency work at first.
For
It's
like
because,
experience or like what?
yes,
Can you explain that? Yeah, go ahead.
you see so much. And so I was lucky enough to, when I was an undergraduate, we had a substance abuse clinic in the town that I went to college. And so I did my internship there and got lucky enough that they had a position open up when I was doing my internship, which back then psych internships were never paid. Ever paid. And so they had a position open up eventually. So I got to like get paid for the rest of my internship. And then I graduated a little bit early. And so I became what they called like a community support worker. So I started my career working with clients who struggle with addiction. And then when I came into graduate school, then I kind of stumbled into working with clients who struggle with eating disorders. And then I opened up my own private practice, and I was in private practice for 11 years. And I remember when I was in private practice for all that time, you'd get phone calls a lot, from students wanting to do an internship in private practice. And my recommendation was always, I don't take interns in private practice because I really believe you need to go do agency work. Just, you see so much. You get all the experience. You get experience with psychiatric, with the social work side of it, with the psychology side of it. You make up curriculum and run groups, and you see all of the huge spectrum of mental diagnoses and things like that. And so you learn a lot. And so before I really got that entrepreneurial spirit, which there's also a lot to be said, there's nothing like mental health agency work to make you want to go into private practice. Even though it's scary, right? You
Yeah.
don't see clients, you don't get paid. And
Yeah.
in graduate school as a therapist, they didn't teach us anything about marketing or sales or filling
Mm.
a calendar. It was truly all about the old school way to
Yeah.
treat patients, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it like going into private practice required quite a bit of learning, and
Mm.
then pivoting and leaving that private practice to build what we've
Yeah.
built now has been a complete new ball game.
Yeah. What was that piece of it like? Because I have to agree when I was thinking about your background or what I know of it is that, that these are two big pivots because going into private practice from agency work, that's one type of becoming an entrepreneur. Then building a brand outside of maybe your day-to-day, what you're known for and your degree, and let's just say what you went to school for lack of better words, is different. Like, what was that piece of it like when that transition took place, especially
Yeah.
since you had a solid practice? Like, I'm guessing everybody around you wasn't like, oh my gosh, that's the
What are
best
you doing?
idea ever.
Yeah. Well, and it's also that piece too that I think sometimes people struggle to like, what do you do exactly? Right.
Exactly.
And so,
Exactly.
and I once had somebody at a keynote, she was like, you're like our office therapist, except we won't call it that because then some people won't show up. And so like, for me, like what I am doing with organizations is my therapeutic background helps me to meet people where they are and
Yeah.
go a little bit deeper and help people get a little bit more vulnerable for sure. Cause I'm qualified and I have really good experience in that. And for the most part, a lot of the rooms that I walk into, many of those people will never go to counseling or they'll
Yeah.
never have access to it or whatever else, or don't want to. But like when
Mhm.
I remember, and I tell entrepreneurs this all the time, I loved my clients in
Yeah.
private practice. I loved them. And when I started dreading going to the office,
Mm.
that's when I knew it was time to look into something different. I was like, ugh, I don't want to go in. Once I was there, I loved it. It was fine.
Yeah.
Right. But once I dreaded started going there, and I knew that my mission, and still to this day, my mission is to reach more people. People need
Mm.
this courage work. People are very, very, very hungry for it. And so I knew if I could reach more people, I would feel that greater impact. And so I was lucky enough to my husband, we were able to kind of make that pivot.
Mhm.
Um, with obviously some huge sacrifices. It was still hard, but it was a dream that you almost kind of didn't know what the dream looks like, but you
Yeah.
knew it had to be different than what you were doing.
Yeah. And so when you were originally doing this and in building your curriculum, did you have an idea or a thesis on like how you were going to help companies and corporations? Obviously you had the background, but did you know or did you develop this prior to kind of, I'm going to use this word you didn't, but jumping off the cliff? Like that's what I always say when somebody leaves corporate and goes and
Yeah.
does their own thing. But technically speaking, you're already self-employed. But
Yeah.
like, did you have all the curriculum developed? Were you figuring it out? Like how did you get to where you're at now, especially with this 3-day curriculum, and you have a bunch of different programs, but how'd you
Yeah.
get to where you're at now?
As a therapist, I was certified in a specific training, and
Hmm.
I was certified for 11 years. And like that, because I just had this conversation with another entrepreneur. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't think you just need getting like, I don't think you need 10 different certifications. Like
Hmm.
pick the program that is most aligned with your mission, your values, or maybe pick the one that challenges you a little bit more. But like, I
Yeah.
don't think you need to be certified in all DISC and strength finders and this and that. And so pick the one that you love. And so, and that's what
Hmm.
I did. I taught I taught someone else's curriculum for 11 years. And then it was that element. I had always known that I was going to write my own curriculum. It was just one of those
Hmm.
pieces of why would I do that when I already have this great curriculum? And then universe, God, whatever kind of forces you into it.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. And it was kind of this element of, oh, there's a huge change. Now it's time to for real do this on my own. And when I really got honest with myself,
Hmm.
especially after teaching in the corporate space for 6 years, I knew that what I was teaching, there were some pieces that were missing, like the emotional well-being piece, the self-care piece. Like
Hmm.
people really are not a lot of people are not emotionally regulated right now, and they don't know how to regulate themselves, or they're not taking care of themselves. They take care of everyone else, but they're
Hmm.
not taking care of themselves, and then they wonder why they're tired and burnt out and sick, or resentful and angry. And so going to my own curriculum allowed me to bring in all of these other pieces, more of the holistic piece of like the therapeutic side, to bring it to the corporate
Mm-hmm.
space.
Yeah. Go a little bit deeper into your curriculum and exactly where it entails. How do you want to tee this up?
Yeah. So Courage is Built Here is my curriculum based off of my lifetime of experience helping
Yeah.
people live better, happier, healthier, and more courageous lives. And so
Mhm.
my curriculum has 5 pathways of courage. And so pathway 1 is what I call feel it all. And that's where we talk about what are your values and your organization's values. And we also talk about emotional well-being, because you are not going to be able to feel well if
Mhm.
you are not deeply rooted in your values. And so that pathway 1 is it builds that foundation of who are you and
Yeah.
what makes you you, and how do you do this work to feel these emotions well, so that you are not reacting from your life or from your emotions, but instead you're responding to your life. Like, I want you to
Mhm.
feel your feelings, not be your feelings. And
Yeah.
so that's pathway 1. Pathway 2 is what I call embody again, how to take care of ourselves, because for many of us, we're no longer in these bodies.
Mhm.
We're not showing up and following through for ourselves. We don't have routines. We're not taking good care of ourselves. And so I talk to people about what it looks like to have a nighttime routine and then a morning routine, and what's it look like to really regulate your emotions through your central nervous system, how
Mm.
to really care for yourself through the basic human obligations like food, water, movement, sleep, awe, wonder, delight, things like that.
Yeah.
Because we're just not doing it anymore, and it's
Yeah.
not helping. And then you got pathway 3, which is be fully you, how to show up authentically. So that is the work of, I want you to show up in all of the spaces that you exist in as
Mhm.
all of who you are. In some spaces we have to exist in, they don't get to hold the honor of hearing our whole story. So what's it look
Mm.
like to walk into those spaces with some boundaries, but still be me? I am done allowing you to take my courage. I'm going to be me,
Mm.
because I know the power of that. When we dare to show ourselves to other people, more times than not, what will happen is they will show us who they are, which
Yeah.
means we're now in connection. And that's what we were made for. We have got to stop trying to doing this ourselves. It's slowly killing us. We have to turn toward one another. I don't know how we get through any of this if we don't. And so that's pathway 3, how to really show up authentically, how to really lean into vulnerability in all of the spaces that you walk into. Then
Mm.
you've got pathway 4, which I call love others well, how to
Mhm.
live with, relate to, and lead others well. And I always tell people in my trainings or in my events, like, if the word love is too squishy for you,
Mm.
especially in a corporate space, it's totally fine.
Do people say that, by the way? I'm
Oh
curious.
yeah, for
Okay.
sure. For sure. Then I just give them permission, right? Like, okay, just shift it to care, dignity, respect. I mean, it's love. It's love.
Mm.
We spend more time awake at work than we do with people who love us the most at home. Like I hope you have care, dignity, and respect for the people that you work with. And I do. I hope you have a sense of love for them. It doesn't mean that you have to be best friends with them.
Mm.
No, because you're not going to click with everybody. But we do remember one another's humanity. And so in pathway 4, we talk about skill sets like empathy, how to be an
Mm.
empathic leader, which also requires you to hold people accountable and able. We talk about operationalizing trust, and we talk about how to have hard conversations. How do we use curious language, and how do we regulate ourselves so that we stop avoiding hard
Mm.
conversations, because the unspoken is never ever benign. If you
Mm.
don't say it, it's just going to fester. So pathway 4 is all about the people stuff. And then you got pathway 5, which
Mhm.
is do the work. To be honest with you, most days I say do the freaking work. And it just it brings everything together. I need you to feel your feelings well. I need you to live in your values. I need you to take care of yourself, to
Mm.
show up as all of who you are, and to love others well. Most of all, do the work, though, is really about rewriting the stories that we make up. The
Mm.
stories that we make up when things get really hard, and also the old narratives that we tend to live from, like the old stories that are born of some of the toughest seasons of our
Mm.
lives.
Yeah. Now, as you take people through these 5 pathways, I'm curious, are some, and maybe I'm asking this wrong, I don't know, you let me know, but are some people maybe lacking or in one area versus another? Are there like dominant pathways of where somebody can be helped more versus others? Like, how does that interplay? Because I can see the like high level, I can see how this all weaves together, but I'm curious how it plays out when you're going
Yeah.
through them.
Yeah. So when people come into my full training, I do give them a pre-work assessment that gives them
Mhm.
a score for the pathways. And I actually just came out of a full training with a banking institution, and it was interesting. Like
Were you
they,
talking about spreading love in that one? And
oh
they're
heck
like,
yeah,
come
it
on.
was. And then I got pushback from one person, and it was okay. Like
How
I was
many
like
people were in there though? That's not bad.
26. We had 26 in
And
that one.
one out of
Yeah.
26
One
ain't
out of
bad. Okay.
26, right? So, and like when it comes to their pre-work assessment kind of surprised me. Like they scored very high on love others well.
Hmm.
And and but they struggled on
Good
taking
job
care of
loving
themselves,
out there, bankers. No.
right? Exactly. Right. And so like I do see trends, and though the scores are never set in stone. I
Hmm.
always tell people like, so I have them look at their pre-work, and then I have them take a post-work like 2 weeks after training, but then
Mhm.
I have them do it again a month later, and then like even like 6 months later or a year later, because your
Mhm.
scores will change. Like I had one woman who went through the full training with me, and she goes, it's so interesting. She goes, this one score went up a lot and everything else kind of stayed the same. I actually had one come down. She goes, and then I realized like, because when I walked out of those 3 days with you, I said, I'm
Hmm.
focusing on this one. And she was like,
Interesting.
I got it to go up, but it was almost at the cost of the other ones. And I was like, I think that's just also kind of life. Because
Yeah.
if you're really walking out the work, you're going to have seasons where some of them fall off.
Hmm.
That's just welcome to being an adult.
Hmm.
This is hard. This is hard work. So it's not perfection.
Mhm.
It really is just progress and trying to figure out what the journey is. But and it will absolutely depend on the person. And of course the therapist in
Mhm.
me is going to say it depends on a lot of different things, like what are their childhood wounds and traumas? What's their level of burnout? What's their support at home? Things like
Yeah.
that.
So when we're thinking about this concept of burnout, like how does this relate and how does maybe the curriculum or what you do, how does that alleviate or help, individuals that are heading down that route or experiencing it?
Yeah. I've stopped saying the words preventing burnout because I don't
Yeah.
we're at this point we're needing to cope with it. And so I think one of the biggest pieces is for me is I truly believe that organizations have to get back to people first. And I know that's hard when budgets are tight and they feel like resources and time are really limited, except if you don't get back to people first, you're just going to keep running through people. There are always going to be organizations who are fine with that. If you want a culture of belonging and courage and where people love what they do and care about one another, your performance will go up because when people feel like they matter at work, they work
Mhm.
harder and they create and innovate, and you keep good talent in a time that's difficult to keep good talent. And so one of the biggest things I hear from team members right now is like they keep telling us not to like overwork or to take care of ourselves, and yet everything is urgent. The to-do lists are never getting done and there's so much
Yeah.
to do. There's less people to do it, all of these constraints. And so what I'm finding is those organizations that are creating time and encouraging time in the workday to
Hmm.
do that self-care work, those are the team members that feel cared for. So
Mhm.
it's even something as simple as on every meeting, we do a check-in. Like, I know
Hmm.
you don't have time to check in with people on your meeting. I know you have an agenda, you got to get to it, and you got to get to the next meeting. You got stuff to do. I know that.
Mhm.
And when you do a true, intentional, connective tissue check-in with your people, and it doesn't have to take that long, you get a
Mhm.
pulse point of where everybody's at. People feel seen. They also feel connected with one another. And so like, an example of that. So there's several different ways to do what I call a courage check-in at the front end of meetings. You can do a 1 or 2 word check-in. So literally everybody goes
Mhm.
around and says 1 or 2 words. My entrepreneur group, my favorite version of that, we do a 1 word check-in in that one. And one day we just made noises. It was just
Like,
like, it was just like,
it's not
oh,
an actual
yeah,
word. It can
yeah,
be
we
a
did not make
grunt, it
words.
can be a sigh, it can
Yeah,
be a noise.
because that was just the day that everyone was having. Being an
I
entrepreneur
do that
is
all the time. I'm glad you just gave me permission. I
yeah,
did
give
that
you
this
permission. So we
morning.
literally all went around and just made a noise, right? So the 1 or 2 word check-in is awesome. It's super quick
Yeah.
too. One of my other favorite ones, there's 2 versions to it. Everyone answers 2 questions. What are you worried about? What are you excited
Mhm.
about?
Mhm.
One of my other favorite ones is actually taken from the Gottmans. They're famous like marriage counselors, and they have a ton of research. Their 2 questions that I love to do with teams is what's on your mind? Because
Mhm.
that usually tells you like what's on their plate for that day, right? Like what's their to
Mhm.
do? And then the second question is what's on your heart?
Yeah.
And that's where they tell you about their humanity.
Mhm.
They tell you that they got a kid getting bullied at school, or
Mm.
they're going to have to put down their elderly dog pretty soon and they're heartbroken about it, right? That's where
Oh,
we remember that people are way more
I
than what
don't
they
like
do
that
for us.
example.
I know it's
That
hard.
hurts.
It's a hard one,
That
right?
hurts.
But like I just did the what's on your mind and what's on your heart with
Mm.
that training with 26 people.
Mm.
It took us less than 15 minutes.
Wow.
Like, and literally I got asked, like, people are really doing this. I go, yes,
Yeah.
you have to make the time for it though. And I know you don't have the time. You have to
Mm.
make it though. And that connection, it just, it helps everything.
Mm. With so many generations in the workplace, like how does the generational, let's just call it, side of things, how does this play out?
Oh, it comes up in every single one of my events.
Mm.
Every single one of them, I think. And how it usually comes up, and then what I have to redirect is that people are not monoliths.
Mm.
Not every person of a certain age or race or whatever is the same, right? Like, so we have to
Mhm.
remember that not every millennial is like this in the workplace or whatever.
Yeah.
And we also have to talk about, like, are we using those terms to cut people down? Because that's not
Mm.
okay either. That's not part of a courageous work culture. When it comes to a courageous work culture, we need all of it. We need wisdom. We we
Mhm.
need the history. We need to learn where we've come from. We need to learn what's no longer working and adapt. So we also
Mhm.
need wisdom to adapt. We also need new though. We need creativity and new. And so obviously I think one of the easiest examples in the generational conversation right now is like, and I hear it a lot, is like
Mhm.
they just don't want to work anymore. And I push
Mm.
back on that every single time. Of course, 80/20 rule.
Mhm.
Usually pretty standard. Do 20% not want to work? Okay, sure, whatever. But are you going to
Yeah.
focus your 80% of energy on that 20%? So that's the question. And so what it really is that they don't want to work the way the way they saw their parents work. Their
Mm.
values are different in the workplace. It doesn't mean they're worse or better. They're just different. And
Mhm.
so what's it look like to have those conversations of what does a satisfying work experience look like for you? Like I had one
Mhm.
CEO, we were on a call and she goes, my daughter is 21 and she just like up and she quit her job. Like she doesn't even care. Like she doesn't have a like backup. She's like, it's fine, mom. It's not the right fit. I quit in a responsible way. I'm just going to find something new. And she goes, meanwhile, I'm over here and I've been here for 30 years because that's just what you do. And I go, different values. They value something different in the workplace. And
Yeah.
so I think for me, we have got to stop saying that they don't want to work. They just don't want to work in the way that they have seen historically. Many of
Mm.
them, they want a life. They want to
Mm.
know that they have impact. They do want to have fun at work. They spend a lot of time there, right? I think a lot of people they want a life.
Yeah. Justine, I do want, with some of the time we have left here, I can't let you off the hook on this one. I know you're an author, Little Winston and His Anxiety. It's an upcoming book you have. And talk a little bit more about this series, what inspired it, even just the name, Little Winston and His Anxiety. What a name for a book.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to publish this book in August for back to school. So Winston's first book is Little Winston and His Big Feelings.
Mm.
So this is the second book, Little Winston and His Anxiety. And so we rescued a little dog, Winston. I guess we've had him for almost 4 years, but he is a breed that as our vet says, they're not bred together. These two breeds
Mm.
on purpose. They are accidental litters.
Oh, wow.
And then when we breed them and when they are accidental litters, we need special families like us to adopt them. So Winston is a
Mm.
rat terrier chihuahua mix.
What?
And uh-huh. And so one, he's adorable. And
Okay.
so like literally people on my Instagram are always like, you haven't posted Winston in a while. Where's Winston? And so I always be like, I know you're really here
You're
for
like,
Winston.
thank
So here he
you.
is. But and I always remind people like, I know you love Winston, but I need to remind you that he hates you. Like he is the most loyal, the smartest, and the most anxious dog that we have ever had. Right. And so,
Mm,
like, it's one of those pieces. He's just a special dog. And so, when we first rescued him, like, he would just become
mm,
overwhelmed with his feelings. And he had a squeaky ball that, like, he would have to have in his mouth. So, that inspired little Winston and his big feelings. And then,
mm,
as the weird anxieties started coming up, especially as a therapist, because when I was in private
mm,
practice, especially with kiddos, anxiety can really show up in weird ways. Like,
mhm,
it can really attach to weird, kind of weird, silly things, and it's exact anxiety. And so I was like, okay, that's book 2, Little Winston and his anxiety, because anxiety is rampant in many ways, and
yeah,
I want kids and their parents who are reading the book with them to learn how to name it, to
mhm,
speak it, to cope with it in a healthy way, to move their body so that
mm,
that emotion moves through them and doesn't own them.
yeah. Well, Justine, this has been a lot of fun having you on the show today
Thank you.
and connecting and getting to know more about you, your practice, you as
Thank
an
you so much.
author. I mean, we covered a lot. Also, what, how to cope with burnout in the workplace. That being said, I mean, what's next? What's next? What's next for you? What's next for your career and your brand?
Yeah, so I just launched an online course, which I'm super excited about. I've been working really hard this year to make the courage work as accessible as possible at different price points and kind of meeting people where they are. I do have a full training coming up in September here in St. Louis, Missouri, which my full trainings are they are exhausting and they are very, very, very powerful. And so
Mm,
I'm really, really excited about that too.
yeah. And if somebody's listening or watching this and they want to follow up and they want to learn more, how do they do that?
Everything is my name. So the website is justinefroelker.com. And when you go to that, you'll see that I have got a free download on healthy boundaries because
Hmm.
many people need to learn what those are. And when you sign up for my newsletter, and so my newsletter is on Saturday mornings, and that's where I post original writings that doesn't go anywhere else is in the newsletter, and also that's where we kind of launch all the new products and things like that. But
Mm,
also all my handles are justinefroelker.com, and I try to share the courage work every day on the different social media platforms so that it helps you keep it top of mind,
hmm.
especially if the algorithm will show it to you. So,
Yeah.
versus like I live and breathe it and teach it every day. And so that's one of the ways that I try to really serve my community is by showing up there consistently on all the different platforms.
Amazing. And for everybody watching, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Justine, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I loved being with you. Thank you for having me.